So why are use cases helpful? Well, they help ground the design process in concrete ideas. When you get concrete, you start to realize that all the things in your head that you thought make sense need to be elaborated or don't work. This is why we sketch. This is why we tell these concrete stories in these use cases, is because otherwise we don't know what we don't know. And it allows you to evaluate with users. So, right now you need to ground your design process. Later, you want to evaluate with users. Once you have this use case, you can then use that exact task, that exact use case for your evaluation tasks. And you can see whether people get stuck in steps 3 and 4. Then you can change something in the interface, and then you update your use case. So it really helps you kind of structure your design process to have, initial scenario. You then create a use case on that, and then you evaluate on that. It's all very nice and aligned and allows you to kind of stay organized with how you're designing things. I'd like to draw your attention to one way of articulating these use cases, which is storyboarding. And I want to share with you a project that I worked on during my postdoc. This is a project called LinePod, which is a portable sense-making platform for people who are blind or visually impaired. And I'll let the video do the talking.
Monday, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m. Meeting from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Show me the next day.
(10 a.m.) Bouldering from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. 4 p.m. 5 p.m.
I really enjoyed this project. We took a knife cutter and kind of hacked it to have a laser inside of it to be able to create these raised lines on swell paper, which is a way of creating tactile graphics, so graphics that you can actually feel. And it took a lot of work to get the lighting right to try and create this video. So this project was a really, really cool project, and the team that was working on it had a final prototype and we wanted to show it off in a demo at a conference called World Haptics. So we wanted to think about how this demo might work, and we created a storyboard. So we started with an overview. So you can see we have all these different stick figures, and yes, I drew these for better or for worse. And we can have these different scenarios. So you have someone waiting in line that's interacting with this flip book of created sensations, someone who is having a picture taken of them, and then it prints out. So we had this sort of photo booth that was working using the LinePod to let people, without being able to interact with a visual screen, have a picture taken with them and then create a tactile graphic of you. So I've got these labeled, and if you go to the first one, you can see, there's a little booklet of all the kinds of things you can print or create with this, so people could feel and say, oh, there's a maze, that's really cool. Oh, this is a tactile graphic, that's cool. The photo booth shows that you're kind of there, and it says you got to back up and back down, or position yourself in a way that lets it take a picture of you. And it actually walks you through this process. It says, what is your name? Oliver. And it says, you should probably be a little bit further back to be in focus. And then strike your pose, 3, 2, 1, click. And so it really helps people figure out what happens. And at the very end, you take home your personalized print. So it kind of shows the end of that use case, that final story. So these were the initial ideas that we had for creating this. And this was the actual demo. We had the LinePod on a table. We had a Connect set up to be able to take people's pictures. And people would line up and get their personalized photos. It was really, really cool. Storyboards can be low fidelity, just like sketches can be. So you have, you could write down, here we have a very organized one. You have a scenario that it's linked to, a persona that's linked to, so you can really incorporate storyboards and use cases into your existing design work. And you have both the image and a description. The description is really, really valuable. It could be either the voiceover, if it's a video, or just saying, here's what you should be experiencing to help walk people through if it's not clear from the photos itself. And you see here, we're just using stick figures, so some of the techniques you learned from our sketching class can really apply. Storyboards can also be high fidelity. So you can imagine this example from Bill Buxton's book that has, a really lovely illustration of how this might work, and that can really evoke this future interface. So again, just like sketches, you can vary in the different views that you have, and you can vary on the different types of fidelity. Usually it's a little bit more realistic. You probably don't have these circles for circulation of people like we saw in the sketching example. They're a little bit more literal in this case. And they can be sort of branching or linear, as we've seen with the demo example. The best way to learn is by doing, so it's your turn. Independently, follow the instructions and learn to create a storyboard based on the use case you provided earlier. Try to be as clear as possible in your storyboard. Remember, this is a form of communication and of exploring concrete ideas. So I want you to try and think through how you're articulating it. The drawings don't need to be art, but they do need to be clear, and you need to think through the design. Go ahead.